Present. Senator Liverpool.
Hi, here.
Senator Nadeem. Senator Shangasa.
Here.
Senator Ramirez.
Here.
Senator Rogers. Senator Salimi.
Here.
Senator Tome.
Here.
Senator Toluk.
Here.
I'm also
Senator-
here. I'm sorry, I was muted. Senator Hawk.
Okay, so looks like we're missing 5 people.
Can you just verify that, is Senator Rogers here?
Senator Rogers?
Yeah, right here.
Okay, yep, we have 10.
We have 10. All right, so just so everyone knows, the meeting will be paused and will be in very big trouble if anyone does leave. So please do your best, if you're a senator, not to leave. Or at least if you have to leave, let me know beforehand, because we will lose quorum if we lose even one senator.
I thought quorum was 12.
We have currently 14 members of Senate.
Oh.
Yep. So in the fall, we'll have 18. All right, with that being said, we're going to move into the singing of the Genesee. If I am able to click, there we go. Feel free to join me if you would like, but you are also able to just mute yourself and sing on your own. Completely up to you. Full many fair and famous streams beneath the sun there be, yet more to us than any seems our own dear Genesee. We love her banks and stately falls, for to our minds they bring our dear old alma mater's halls, where sweetest memories cling, as flows the river gathering force along her steadfast way. May we along life's devious course grow stronger day by day, and may our hearts wherever we roam forever loyal be to our beloved college home beside the Tennessee. All right, there we go. And now we're going to move into open forum. Are there any points for open forum? President Gorka?
Yep, I was about to say, this is where I come in. All right, awesome, okay. Thanks for making it, guys. I just wanted to clarify some things, I guess. So this is gonna just take a moment. Me and Mark wanted to, I guess, say some words. So I'll make sure to keep this brief, but one sec. I have some notes. I want to make sure I don't miss anything. So just to kind of start off the conversation, you guys have seen that some of the motions have changed. That was a kind of fluke on our end. The motion currently that is to, I believe, appoint Wesley Mon and Isabelle Murphy as one for the community engagement position. I was hoping that we could amend that motion to separate the 2 candidates, just because, again, we don't want to compare the 2, and we do want the 2 candidates to stand on their own. That being said, me and Mark have made the decision to table the appointment of any deputies in the executive cabinet for today. We're gonna readdress that in the fall. We're gonna take the summer to kind of go on a trial run basis to see the validity of the positions. We've already talked to Wesley about this, and we've talked to Imond, and we've also mentioned this to Izzy and Isha, who we've had conversations about since Monday. We thought this would be the best call because although with our wanting these particular deputies, we wanted to emphasize certain values that we thought these roles would help within the transition to next year, especially given, in light of our circumstances and COVID. So we're just going to table that for now because we don't want to make this, egregiously long meeting. People got places to be. And again, we did take your concerns into heart about deputy selection. So, and I guess kind of I want to discuss now And something that Mark's going to discuss further into is also the application process and kind of the selections. I wanted to kind of give more clarity about that in particular, where it wasn't, a breach of confidentiality. So that being said, applications, I'm sure as you all know, based on the emails that you got from Alexander, were on Friday, the 17th. There was a week where they were open and publicized. We extended the deadline to make sure that everybody could apply that wanted to, because we had some people reach out to us saying that they were pressed because of, classes, which is completely fair. So we extended the deadline, and then that weekend had interviews. Interviews took between 20 to 30 minutes long, based on, again, how many positions a particular applicant was applying for. And within those interviews, we asked a lot of different questions about conflict management, weaknesses and strengths, projects and visions that you had for the position, not just, and then I guess interests, as well as some more nitpickier questions like how would you communicate with the rest of SA, and elaborate from there. In conjunction, I guess, and with this writing app and with the interviews, we made a comprehensive list, and that is how we came to the conclusion of the applicants that we ended up choosing at the end of the day. We took a lot of comprehensive notes, and I just want to say that that was the process, and that is kind of has been the standard. And I know that a lot of you guys, being new to SA, might have not necessarily known, I guess, the step-by-step process unless you yourself applied before. So I wanted to kind of just put that out there in case there was some confusion. That being said, I'm going to transition over to Mark. If you want to take.
Thanks, Justina. I guess I can continue talking just a bit about the points that we had. Most of the confusion, I know it was very messy on Monday, but we just wanted to kind of reiterate our points a little bit about chair selections, and specifically with the Academic Affairs Committee, and why leadership thought and still thinks that Amanda is a very good fit basically for the role. I am going to share a little bit about like more specific stuff, I guess, that happened in the interview, because I know that was a concern with a lot of senators. I did want to say we did get like her consent to talk about those details. So that's what I'm sharing. But some of the points that leadership really agreed about with Amanda is that we looked specifically at like her experience with her majors and her changes in the university. And we did see like there was a lot of personal connection to her academic presence, a lot of familiarity with the system itself. And that's something that she mentioned a lot about. And she talked a lot about her ongoing relationship with her students, with deans, with faculty, the personal relationships that she developed from that, and how it spread out to things within academics, outside of academics. It kind of really helped her point with running for chair. And she also went in depth about like ideas within academics that included things that transitioned from previous years, improving previous systems, and some new ideas which really grabbed our attentions, like specifically like two that kind of I remember off the top of my head are working on something with the disability services and different student mentorship programs. And it wrapped it all up with everything she talked about with her leadership experience on campus and her dedication to make the campus ever better, specifically within academics. Now, that being said, leadership is very aware about the fact that the motion for appointing the AAC chair did not pass on Monday. But again, things were very messy. So we wanted to make sure that the entire process was clear. There weren't any misconceptions, just to make sure that Senate as a whole, you guys can make like a very good decision, because I know there was a lot of confusion there. So this is the point of this, clarifying the interview process, clarifying our thoughts about Amanda and why we think she's such a strong candidate. I do want to mention that if after all of this, Senate still reaches the same conclusion that we reached on Monday, we definitely thought of that as a potential thing that might happen. We do have another motion that we'd like to suggest. We can talk about that when we get to it. For now, what I wanted to make sure is that the entire Senate is like aware about the process, about the candidate, to make as clear a decision as possible. I guess that's what I wanted to mention. Justina, do you have anything you want to add?
No, just that I hope that we can have a lot of productive discussion, and I want to just thank everybody for staying through that entire Senate on Monday. A lot of good discussion, a lot of appointments made. I just wanted to apologize again because we should have clarified from the get-go some of the more intricate processes where we could. And that's something that I feel like we didn't emphasize enough upon. And, you know, you guys being new to SA, it's definitely something we should have taken more into heart. But I'm hoping that this meeting can go well and we can reach a, you know, consensus on some things, not just the Secretary of Community Engagement position, because I do want Izzy Murphy for the role. And she has voiced to me that she is still very much so interested. And I do want to then try to get some consensus about the academic affairs position, but that's, you know, what this meeting's for. So I'll let Alexander continue on.
Senator Tom?
Yes, I just did have a question. First of all, thank you for the clarification. So currently there's no motion on the agenda for the appointment of the academic affairs chair. So are you asking us senators to motion for it, or will you be adding a motion to the agenda still?
Is that question directed to Justina?
Whoever can answer that, I guess.
So we were kind of talking with leadership about a couple of ways that we could go about this. We didn't want to try to, you know, force anything. The one thing that we do want is to amend the motion that currently stands to separate and also then table motion to appoint Wesley Mon until, you know, we can discuss it further in the fall. I don't know. I guess I want more people's input on it because I do still believe that Amanda would make a phenomenal candidate, and all of leadership came to that, you know, consensus within the appointment process. We did not make any of the decisions that we did for the appointed positions until we were all on the same page. So that being said, I do still want to kind of give it, you know, some conversation and get some opinion about that. But that's why we're not putting on a motion though, because we are very cognizant of you guys and wanting to make sure that everybody's feeling comfortable here. And that's, I guess, all I'll say because there's still some people, you know, on the speakers list and we might have some more conversation about that. So I'll yield back to you, Leah.
I yield for now.
Okay. Senator Liverpool?
Motion to extend the introductory business time for an extra 7 minutes.
If you rescind that motion, I will just, since we're not currently in motions, I will just add 7 minutes to that. Is that fine?
Yes, thank you. I yield.
Senator Hawk?
I yield to Brendan.
Hi, everyone. So first, I just wanted to emphasize like some concerns I had about the process. Not just as like the idea of having 30 minutes. I understand, you know, everyone was on a time crunch, but it really played against people who applied for more than one position. Like for example, I applied to 3 different positions, and it was very hard to give a thorough and answer or elaboration on you know, the positions that I was applying for. Even for my interview, it got to the end and I had to even say, oh, you know, I still haven't been asked a question for one of the positions I even applied for, as opposed to someone who would just apply to one and would have 30 full minutes to talk about why they want that one position. And I feel like that does play a very big role against how much you get to elaborate and express your passion and your ideas and your interests for that position. And I feel like that's something that needs to be taken into consideration either this time or the next time. That way it's more fair. You know, for example, 10 minutes per, you know, position you're applying for or something to alleviate that concern that some students have expressed. And also, I'm really glad you guys mentioned today in the beginning about the transparency, because I feel like that's a definite concern that a lot of people had about the whole process. And I feel like that was a really good idea on your guys' part to just, you know, elaborate on that. But I'm sure everyone knows or a lot of people know as to why I wanted to speak, which is I mentioned it on Monday, and I'm going to mention it now. I did mention that there was rumors of, you know, certain favoritism or nepotism within these appointments and choices. And the first thing that I want to address is I hope that anytime a student who expresses genuine and valid concern isn't faced with the kind of rhetoric or door shut in the face with, and I quote, disgust or purely disgusting or a slap in the face for anyone who expresses any kind of concern. It is the responsibility of leadership to approach these concerns and address these concerns appropriately and properly, and especially not to a peers or especially in a group chat, which is unsettling and extremely unprofessional, to say the least. And I just want to mention that it is not just me. It is more than me. It is not one, not two, not 10, but more than 12 people who have approached me and expressed the same exact concern that I have. So I am saying this on behalf, and I'm sure more people will elaborate on me as well, the concerns that I have expressed, that, you know, these are valid concerns that almost every single person who was appointed, you know, was a person who supported the campaign for the president and vice president, you know, except for the exception of one or two people. And this could hint at a bias. And if someone expresses that bias, it is your role to, you know, respectfully explain why, and which is what you guys did today, which what should have been done in the first place. You know, and it has become a talking point of a lot of students. And it is not disgust that students feel this way. It is not outrageous. It is not the discontent of just one student.
In the interest of time, I'm going to ask that Senator Hawk yield, but you may be yielded back to you in the gallery with the next person on the speakers list.
I yield.
President Gorka? It was Brendan Tran that was in the gallery if you wish to yield.
I'll address some of the points because I definitely heard after the fact that there was concerns about like biases, and I really want to emphasize that we all in leadership, we had access to all the applications and the interviews, and we had long and hard discussions. Like we literally stayed up so late into Sunday night, woke up so early into Monday morning because we wanted to make sure that we were picking the right people for the job. And I don't know how more to emphasize it, honestly, because we were comparing so many factors. And as for, I guess, the comment about the interviews, we did extend the time from what they were precedent last year. And we tried to make sure questions were open-ended enough so that they could apply for multiple positions. And I will disclose that there were people that applied for more than just 3, and we managed to make them work, and some were even appointed. That being said, I'm just kind of, I guess, at a loss because I did not know that it would come off this certain type of way, because at the end of the day, again, I want to emphasize that leadership chose all of these positions, you know, together. We had all the information laid out there on the table discussing, because we sincerely believe that everybody we ended up choosing for appointment are the best people for the role. Like, there was no doubt in my mind. That is why we had so much back and forth. And like, I apologize if people feel that they were left out of, you know, like left out on a loop, because we didn't clarify that from the start. But this is something that is part of, you know, leadership's role, is to find the people for the job. And that is why we were elected, because the student body trusted us to make the right call. Because at the end of the day, me and Mark's #1 priority is going to be SA and the student body. And that is why we ended up choosing the people we did, because we thought that they would make, you know, the best people for those roles. And I just wanted to emphasize that, and I will yield to Jamal Holtz.
I'm actually going to ask that you yield again in the interest of time to the next person.
I'll yield to the floor.
Senator Tom.
Yeah, so I, of course, have heard some of the concerns too, not saying that those were indeed true. I really appreciate you elaborating on that, Justina, more. It's just, I do appreciate you also taking the motions away from the agenda that I feel like people had concerns about not being transparent enough, or people being appointed due to other reasons than qualifications, experience. I'm just wondering, I don't think that will simply fix it, saying I'm sorry and taking them from the agenda. So do you have any ideas of how you can address this? I'm just a little bit concerned that we're already having this discussion in the first week or the second week of being a new SA government. So I'm just wondering how we can be even more transparent in the future. How much time do I still have?
You got about a minute, but I'm going to interrupt just for a moment to say that specifically the motion that was on the agenda, which was a motion to reconsider the motion to approve Amanda Liang as the Academic Affairs Committee Chair, that specific motion was an error in making it on the agenda. And that is 100% on me. That had nothing to do with any of the concerns or other things that were being addressed during this open forum. So I just wanted to clarify that that was a sort of a clerical error in me putting it on the agenda. And when I realized that, I took it off.
I did not mean that motion. I rather meant the one in the executive branch. I would really like to yield to Brandon again, if I still have the time.
Thank you, Leah. And this, I really want to mention that I completely respect, the amount of work and effort that leadership put into this. I know you guys did in fact take a lot of time to deliberate. Mark expressed this to me, but to say that you guys, did everything you can to fully be informed, I feel like is not a fair thing to say. Like it was mentioned on Monday, but if that was true, you would have consulted Ian Krager. If that was true, you would have consulted the executives, the previous execs. Because if you spoke to Laura Andre, which I have been in contact with and worked a lot with for community engagement, she would have told you more. If you spoke with the previous execs for all of them, you would have learned more. If you spoke to the departments, granted, I know you guys were short on time, so I understand that you guys could only do as much as you can given the time you were given. I just feel like a lot of this was rushed and a lot of it wasn't thorough enough. And I want to yield to Jamal. I can't yield. Never mind. I'm not a senator anymore.
And also, I would request that Senator Tome yield again in the interest of time. I did want to say that these time limits were there for a reason, and I recognize that we've sort of delved a little bit into the new business, talking about potential motions that would be made. So I know that there were a few other points that folks wanted to make that were not on this specific open forum point. So if there is perhaps one more thing that someone wanted to say going down the line in the speakers list, I would allow for extending the time, but on a different topic other than the one that we are currently discussing for open forum. And then if folks would like to revisit this at the end, I'm willing to move into a moderated caucus or to extend the time for open forum, but I would prefer to have it be a caucus. That being said, Senator Tome, do you yield?
I already yielded, sorry.
Okay, Senator Liang?
Yeah, I agree. I think a moderated caucus would probably be great. Is there any way we could put that on the agenda?
Yes. Typically it has not gone on the agenda. It's just been, we've moved into a moderated caucus. It would not be recorded. And traditionally it would be taking place in person in a small group. So it wouldn't be like executive session where anything you say is privileged, but given the current situation with Zoom, it would likely be in a separate breakout room.
Okay, well, yeah, Micah asks why not recorded, since it would technically be in the public space, just as it would be in real life.
So if this is, I'm considering the moderated caucus to not be in the public space. While it is occurring during the meeting and the meeting is still active, it is not a piece of public business. So we can do an unmoderated caucus as well. The moderated in my terms, it would just be that the speaker would have a speakers list and we would still be following Robert's Rules of Order. That would be the differentiation between moderated and unmoderated. Unmoderated would be more like a discussion.
Unmoderated would still be not recorded, is that correct?
Correct. If you want it to be recorded, I think you would have to have it happen during the meeting in open forum. But again, I would urge you to consider the new business because we have folks that have been waiting. And because we have a certain amount of time before the senators will have to leave and we won't have quorum.
All right, cool. In that case, how much time do I have left? 5 seconds, is it?
About, yeah.
Okay, cool, I yield back to the floor.
All right, are there any other points for open forum?
Liverpool?
I just wanted to suggest another motion to extend this introductory business time for another 10 minutes. There's a lot of people who still want to talk, and I'd still like to hear what everyone has to say. Is that possible? Can we do that?
You can, but I'm going to have it be picked up at the end of all the other points for open forum, because for the same reason that if there were certain motions that were made, I would request that you would make the motion at the end of the meeting. I would do the same here for open forum, that if there are small items or discussion that folks would just like to mention that are not related to this, that are other points for open forum, that we get through those now beforehand, and then we can move back into another period of discussion on this topic. Is that acceptable?
I think I understand what you're saying. Okay.
So essentially, we're going to pause the discussion here, go through any other points for open forum that are related to something that you feel like sharing, it's not related to this specific topic, and then we will come back and resume discussion.
Okay. So then I yield back to the floor.
So are there any points for open forum that are not regarding the topic that was previously being discussed? Senator Tulloch?
I know Jamal wanted to say something, so can I yield to him? It was about something completely unrelated to that.
Yes, you can.
I yield to Jamal.
Thank you. It kind of sucks not being present no more. But no, I was honestly just going to make a quick point about the form. I know a lot of people had concerns earlier with the opt-in form for grade, that it was blocked off for a few hours and people thought they didn't have opportunity to reveal their grade for the SF. But the form is open. It was an error on the registrar side, and they made the form open until 11:59 tonight. So if people send you concerns, you can let them know that. That's it.
Senator Tulloch, do you have any other points, or do you yield?
I yield.
Are there any other points like that are outside of the scope of what we were talking about? If you have one, please just either raise your hand or say it out loud. Seeing none, we will move back into discussion, beginning with the same speakers list that we had before. Senator Liang, you have about a minute left of your speaking time.
I yield.
President Gorka?
I'm gonna yield to Mark.
The point that I wanted to make was more relevant when Brendan was talking, so I would rather kind of have that conversation start up again before I kind of waste more time. So for now I'm good.
President Gorka, you have the floor.
I yield.
Are there any other senators wishing to speak on this point in open forum? I currently see no hands. Does that mean that there are no senators Senator Tome?
I would like to yield to Tahsin Himi.
Hi. Okay. So these are interesting times. I just I wanted to talk about it was about the appointments for people for different positions. Is that the topic you guys want to bring about at the end? Because I did want to talk about that.
We're currently in discussion on that topic. Yes.
Okay, so I am not involved with SA in any shape or form. I'm a general member of the student body, like a lot of people on this call today. I just want to say, I'm someone who, it is really disheartening to hear that and I don't want to name names, and I just want to talk about this because this came to me. I'm a senior. I've been on leadership for different clubs, so it came to me from that through those channels. It is very disheartening as a general public to hear that leadership messaged individuals and said that we're going to look for loopholes to elect people who weren't sworn in, or who weren't elected to particular positions for committees. I don't understand why that came about or why that happened. I am just very confused, and I'm just also very confused about the whole process. From what I've known is that for the last 4 years, committee chairpersons have been usually assigned the end of the spring semester, and then they move on like in the fall we had these committees and stuff like that. Like I said, I'm not involved with FA, but I just want like clarification as to why these kind of conversations have been taking place, and just like a little bit more clarity.
Senator Tome, do you yield your time?
I do.
Is there any other discussion? President Gorka?
I mean, I can say that I know that there was conversations about how to go about the academic affairs nominee not getting approved and how we were going to deal with that, because it hasn't really happened. I think up to recently, nobody really knew what the precedent was about that. So we were consulting people about the procedural governing documents. Not really sure otherwise, but yes, the committee chairs are normally appointed and confirmed before the end of the spring semester, because there is a lot of transitionary work that needs to happen in preparation for the fall, like making sure that we allocate the senators evenly to the committees that they prefer, and preparing also legislative advisor applications. So that is the timeline, but I will yield.
Senator Raza?
Yeah, just a second, sorry. So I think my entire qualm in this entire situation is that it's very obvious that the Senate is very much not satisfied with the decision. Well, a large chunk of Senate is not satisfied with the decision that the executive leadership took. And what's consistently baffling me is that we're finding ways to talk around the topic, saying things that we're not specifically supposed to be saying, but finding ways to subtly call out other people and almost at a certain level make personal attacks. And I understand that there's a lot of personal grudges involved and personal issues, whatever those are, but at the end of the day, I would really like to strongly suggest and recommend that we do reiterate to all of ourselves that we are in a Senate and we are chosen representatives. And one of our jobs is to work through our issues in a very well established, very well regulated, very well normalized, understood, whatever the right word is here, manner, so that we go about addressing issues, especially as potentially and allegedly egregious as nepotism, in a very fair but very direct manner. And going around it, not directly talking about these issues, is shameful. And although for some fucking reason my internet won't let my video come on, I can only say that this is insanely disappointing on both of our ends in terms of the Senate and the executive leadership, that we're trying to find ways to go around the topic, go around the issue, but not directly confronting it. So if it could possibly be something that we could directly address, I think that would be best for the entirety of Senate and our direct relationship with the executive leadership, because I do think at the end of the day, we have to make change together. We're not going to get it by shitting on each other all the time. Thank you, I yield.
Are there any other senators wishing to speak? I'm going to recommend that if there are none, we move into motions, specifically the motion that is on the agenda, and discussing that. And then after that point, we would be able to move into a moderated or unmoderated caucus. Senator Liang.
Oh, I think it might be a better idea to do what you just said, which is to move into unmoderated caucus in order to address, I guess, that. I guess if we're having a really hard time just like, speaking our minds, this is indeed a public conversation. It might be a good idea to move into unmoderated caucus or, moderated caucus, whatever we choose, in order to, I guess, like speak those things aloud for all in the current Zoom call to hear. Everything's like, it's like that annoying person on Facebook who keeps like vague posting. Does anyone in the forum have anything to say on this topic specifically?
There was a question as to whether or not the gallery can speak in a moderated caucus. I'm going to say that in this particular case, no. There will be the Senate and the SA leadership that is in a room, in a breakout room. However, if a minute or two in, we would like to include members of the gallery in that discussion, I am happy to include anyone who would like to be included in that discussion. But I think to begin with, there's a conversation that would likely need to happen between the members of SA leadership, extended SA leadership, and the senators.
Okay, I yield.
Senator Tom? You're muted.
Sorry, I was unmuted and then muted myself. I'm sorry, technology. But I do agree that I think we should move into new business for the motions we have and then move into a moderated caucus. I think that will be extremely helpful to clarify any concerns or issues we have. Before we do that, I do want to echo what Senator Raza has said, that I think it's extremely important to be transparent and honest with each other. I know that there has been a lot of conversation happening in groups, happening with other people about a lot of concerns we have heard, but I think it's really important for us to say, yes, this has happened. Yes, I indeed did state that to other people, and to recognize kind of maybe some of the concerns, some of the mistakes that might have occurred. I know a lot of us are new to those positions and we are allowed to make mistakes, but I think it's really important considering how we fix those mistakes. And I really want everyone to consider that when we're going to discuss about this, because I do believe transparency and honesty is really important. And I yield.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak for open forum?
Just a question. This is Micah.
So it's okay. It's not a point of discussion. It's a question for me.
Yeah, if it's an unmod in a breakout room, is that executive session or not?
It is not executive session. Anything that is said in that room can be repeated to anyone else that is outside of the room.
Okay.
The only reason that it is in a breakout room is specifically so that it's a smaller group. If it were happening in person, it would be a smaller group getting together talking about the issue in a less formal setting, but it still would not be part of the public recorded session. It would be a private discussion where the information is private.
Great, that's it.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Seeing none, we will move into new business. Is there a motion? Senator Tom.
So I'm trying to get this right. Do I take it from the table or do I motion to separate it?
Currently, there is no motion on the table. So if you motion to split or motion to amend, which would be the motion I would recommend you make, there is nothing to amend. So if you start with the motion that is specifically on the agenda right now, that will be a motion to go into discussion about the motion to approve both of those people. From there, any motion can be made after that point.
Okay, so I'm going to motion to amend the motion to take from the table. Wait, I'm sorry. I'm going to amend the I'm sorry. I'm motioning to amend the motion to take from the table the motion to approve Isabelle Murphy as Secretary of Community Engagement and Wesley Mon as Assistant Secretary of Community Engagement, to motion to take from the table the motion to approve Isabelle Murphy as Secretary of Community Engagement. Sorry, that was a mouthful.
So as I said, there's currently no motion on the floor. So I put that motion on the agenda because I thought it would be one way that you could address the, I'm trying to think of how to explain it. So essentially at the end of Monday's meeting, the senators tabled the motion to approve Isabelle Murphy and Wesley Mon. That motion is currently nowhere. It's on the table. So if you want to bring that back for discussion, you have to take it from the table. So you can't take part of the motion. The motion was to do both. Once you have taken that motion from the table, assuming that motion passes, like if you motion for exactly what's on motion number 26 on the agenda, if you motion for that exactly and that motion passes, you will be back where you started before you tabled the motion. You'll be in a motion to approve Isabelle and Wesley Mon. From there, you are able to change that motion. But as of right now, there isn't a motion to change. Does that make sense?
Yes, sorry. Okay, I got it. So I motion to take from the table the motion to approve Isabelle Murphy as Secretary of Community Engagement and Wesley Mon as Assistant Secretary of Community Engagement.
All right, is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Senator Liang?
Yes, seconded.
Is there any discussion on the motion to take that motion from the table? Just so if everyone understands, a yes vote on this would be to begin the discussion on the motion that is sort of the second half of that motion. If this motion fails, there is currently no motion. Like we are back where we began. So I would encourage, if you would like to have discussion on Isabelle or Wesley, to either or both to approve this motion. That being said, is there any discussion specifically on the motion to take from the table? Senator Hawk.
Yeah, I would like to yield to Izzy to speak a little bit about her position and her stance on having an assistant on the position. If that's
So specifically, the discussion that we are in now is not about Izzy or Wesley. It's actually on the motion to take from the table. So I would encourage you to have that discussion if this motion passes. If this motion passes, they are not approved.
Okay, understood. I yield.
Thing to take it. Yep. So seeing no further discussion, we will move into a vote via unanimous consent. Is there any dissent on the motion to take that from the table? Seeing and hearing none, we are now in discussion on, it passes, and we are now in discussion on the motion to approve Isabelle Murphy and Wesley Mon as Assistant Secretary of Community Engagement. Senator Tom. Senator Tom, you have the floor.
I'm so sorry, I didn't hear my name. I can motion outright motion to amend motion 26 to motion to approve Isabelle Murphy as Secretary of Community Engagement.
Is there a second on that motion? Senator Tulloch?
I second.
Is there any discussion on the motion to amend? If this motion passes, the motion that you will be voting on is a motion to approve Izzy Murphy as Secretary of Community Engagement. If this motion fails, you will be in discussion on Isabelle Murphy and Wesley Mon. It will remain as that motion, as a combined motion. Senator Liverpool.
Sorry, my hand was just raised.
Okay. Is there any other discussion on the motion to amend the motion? Seeing none, we will move into a vote by unanimous consent on the motion to amend the motion. Is there any dissent on the motion to amend the motion to just be a motion to approve Isabelle Murphy as Secretary of Community Engagement? Seeing and hearing none, the motion passes. So we are now in discussion specifically on a motion to approve Isabelle Murphy as Secretary of Community Engagement. And I'm going to highlight in the agenda specifically what the motion now says. Senator Tulloch.
Yeah, I just want to do what Rusama was trying to do before, so I yield to Izzy to talk more about her opinion.
All right, hi again, guys. So I will just briefly go over, again, kind of my qualifications for this position and why I'm really excited about it. So I think I said last time, don't remember, it was really late, but I did Urban Fellows last summer, learned so much about the Rochester community and really came to love it. I was an election fellow this past fall, so I helped students become election inspectors and work at the polls and get involved that way. So through those two things, I think the big kind of culminating piece that came out of those to help me in this position is that I have a super close relationship with the people in RCCL, which is the Rochester Center for Community Leadership. And they are kind of the central office on campus that helps get students connected to the Rochester community. And that's their that's basically their entire purpose. So I have a great relationship with them. I am very closely connected to the Committee for Political Engagement, so I'm excited to do work with them, especially as it's an election year. And then also, I'm planning on connecting with more environmental groups on campus because that's a major passion of mine. And not on campus, off campus, sorry. And I'm already in contact with a bunch of them. And in terms of some ideas I have, there's quite a few. I really want to start a discussion about changing both the format and just the overall kind of concept of Wilson Day, because it's largely problematic in terms of we just ship a bunch of first years out to do work that they're quite honestly just annoyed to do, turns them off to community engagement, turns them off to Rochester, where we could hopefully like get them more engaged in the tons of opportunities on campus that they can get engaged in, such as there are so many organizations, you know, the Community Service Network, Food Recovery Network, the PACT, like people are already doing this work. And I think that having another community engagement fair, that would be fantastic. Maybe even having one at the beginning of the year, or maybe setting up the structure so it can happen the next year, because I know these things take time. What else? I'm blanking now, but you know, I have so many exciting ideas. I lost my notes, but I guess I just want to open it up to questions from you guys if you guys want to know any more about me or my plans or my values, because this is a very value driven role. Yeah, I will open up. Like I yield. I give it back. It's so weird not being a senator.
Senator Tulloch, still have the floor.
Yeah, just 2 seconds. I also want to talk about a lot of the conversations that me and Izzy had during the spring semester were very positive. We talked a lot about different plans that we both had for the community. I definitely think she would be an amazing choice for this position. And I would love to see the work that she would do. With the rest of my time, I yield to Ian.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Izzy. So I was actually recently elected the chair of the university's Committee for Political Engagement. And one of my first decisions was to make the Secretary of Community Engagement an ex officio member of CPE. So I am so excited to work with Izzy, hopefully, in this election year. So I wanted to ask, Izzy, what are some of your plans to engage students in the 2020 U.S. presidential election?
Great. So this, I think, largely depends on, I hate to say this, but if we're going to be back on campus or not. So if we're back on campus, we need to have discussions with the Board of Elections and with RCCL in terms of getting hopefully more polling sites on campus, because we have one that I think is in the medical center, which I don't know, if you're a student and you're not at the medical center, you're not going there. So that's one way. Also holding, like, kind of communicating between different kind of political groups on campus, and maybe promoting different events to students, just helping to promote those, because I know that there's a lot of good dialogue that happens, and I just want to make sure students get as involved in that as possible. Also, hopefully working closely with the Monroe County election fellows again, even though I probably won't have that position because I'll be working in this. I want to work closely with them to help advertise even more the opportunity to become an election inspector, because that's a really fantastic way to not only become engaged, but make a lot of money in one day. It's a long day, but it's really powerful to work. It's basically the front lines of the election, right? Like you're running the polls, you're collecting the ballots. And yeah, I just, those are some of my plans. I think also providing direct shuttle services to other polling places if the medical center doesn't work out for people, if we're not able to like create new polling sites, because that might be a big reach. Kind of like tasking different shuttles to go different places, or coming up with like maps to show students exactly how to use RTS to get to places where they can vote. So those are some ideas.
Senator Tulloch, you still have the floor, and I would recommend that you yield.
I yield.
Senator Rogers.
One question I have for Izzy is, a lot of talk was about political engagement and civic engagement with in terms of politics. I don't know if the community community engagement secretary, but how are you thinking about engaging in, let's say, multicultural groups, other things on campus, regardless of, not regarding politics, but the overall, like MGC, DLAs, BSU, PASA, all that have you?
Yeah, so I actually spoke with, this had to do with my presidential campaign, but I think it went really well because it started a conversation between myself and Amina, who is on the e-board for the PACT, and they do incredible work with high schoolers. They mentor them, and then I know that MMLA does amazing work as well. I think honestly, like, to start out, I would love to like start kind of a personal relationship with each of those groups that do direct work in the community, because I know that they do a lot, and I don't want to come in. So kind of the central thought in me coming into this position is that I don't want to like be like, okay, here are all these ideas that I'm going to do myself, like me, I'm doing it here, get all the students involved. I want to first and foremost promote the work that other students are doing on campus so that we can draw more students to the great work they're doing. For example, MMLA, the PACT. So because they're already doing amazing work, and I don't want to kind of just leave them behind and pretend that just ignore them, you know? So reaching out to all of them and establishing a connection, hearing from them, like, did they like the community service fair idea? Would they like something structured slightly different? Because in that way, I think I'll be able to address those needs. So yeah, that would be the first step. And then I would love to have regular meetings with the groups who are involved in campus. So for example, those two that I just mentioned, the others that you mentioned, Food Recovery Network, Community Service Network, which is kind of like the umbrella of all of them, because I want to hear the work that's happening and be able to help promote it and be able to make suggestions for how we can kind of come together and support each other. And then yeah, I think those are kind of some starting points to make sure that I have relationships with those people, and that I'm making sure that all the work is being inclusive of everyone who is doing incredible work. Does that answer your question, Devon?
Yes. Also, I can attest to that work. I also was part of MMLA, and they are somebody who are undervalued by university. So I will just add my sense to that.
Yeah, I agree. And just quickly again, I feel like especially community service, like community engagement organizations of color, I feel like aren't really well known or really highlighted. Like the fact, like MMLA and the PACT, the work they do just blows my mind. Like the fact that you have a one-on-one relationship with students is incredible, and I haven't heard about it other than like personal relationships with like you, with Amina, like telling me these things, and I'm like, okay, well.
To preserve time, I'm sorry that I don't mean to be rude, but this
you're good.
Time of everybody else.
You're good.
But thank you.
Senator Rogers, do you yield?
Yes, I yield.
Senator Arnarkin?
Cool. So as always, the question asked by every candidate, what would be some of the reasons why we should not elect you for the position?
I was waiting for this question. I was like, when is he gonna ask? So I think one weakness of mine is self-doubt. I think a lot of times I, go to send an email or go to, draft a plan for an event or like anything, and I always have this kind of it's just a weird thing that I need to overcome every time, and sometimes that takes me a little more time and energy just to kind of gather my confidence to execute the job, but I've always been able to, and so I think just that I have been working on a lot recently. I think that's shown in some of the work that I've been doing, and but yeah, that's definitely one of my weaknesses, is that I sometimes do take like a hot sec to get the ball rolling, just because I have a weird self-doubt problem. But does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. And I yield the rest of my time to Connor.
Thanks, Mike. My question has to do with the person who's occupied the role for, I think, the past 4 years, Laura. She has been in the role for so long that she's pretty much defined it for multiple people's entire experiences at Rochester. What do you think that you will bring to the position in the long term?
It's a great question. So I didn't even, it was crazy because I didn't know that Laura had held the position for that long until I had reached out to her last week, and she did say, like, for the past 3 years that I've been holding it, I was like, wow, you really, this is like your position. So I think that something that I can bring to it is the piece about about connection between the organizations that already exist. I know that Laura created the Pen Pals program that is now the East Pen Pal program, I believe it's called. It's an organization that I think she's still going to run. And I think that was incredible, and I really love that she took on that initiative to create something new. But I think that my ability is definitely going to be in hopefully creating connections and bringing, especially maybe like bringing different groups' work to RCCL and saying, like, how can you help them do this? And, how can you help them have more resources? How can we find more funding for them? Doing it in that way, as well as connecting students to projects and to initiatives that are already going on. Because obviously I would love to start new things. I would love to, I mean, I have some
Izzy,
plans
I'm
too,
gonna
but
cut you off here to be.
Okay.
I
All right.
yield the floor.
Senator, can you remind me how to pronounce your last name?
It's Changase.
And say that one more time.
Changase.
Changase?
Yes, that's
Senator
correct. Thank
Changase,
you.
you have the floor.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Tequila. I have a question. How do you think that the position of Assistant Secretary of Community Engagement would help your position? How do you think that these positions, if created, will complement each other best to accomplish whatever vision you have for the position?
Yeah, so this position the assistant position to me, or to the position that I'm hopefully being appointed to, is hasn't existed for a few years, so I haven't been able to see it in action because Laura didn't have an assistant. I did ask her after Monday, and I reached out and I said, like, what do you feel that an assistant would contribute, or do you think it was necessary? And she basically said, like, if you feel like you need one, it'd probably be great to help you answer emails and stuff. But she felt kind of satisfied. So I think that, given the right person, and if I have enough work, I think it would be a great position to kind of delegate some smaller tasks to. For example, maybe keeping up a line of communication via email, or organizing documents, or attending a meeting that I can't make. So that's how I would probably envision it. But does that answer your question?
Yeah, it's fine. That suffices. Thank you.
Okay.
Do you yield, Senator Changase?
Oh yes, I yield. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion on this motion? It looks like Jamal is in the gallery if someone would like to motion. I'm not sure if that was from a previous. Senator Liverpool? You are muted, Senator Liverpool.
Sorry. I will just quickly say that I said this on Monday, but Izzy is extremely capable for this position. She is one of the most dedicated people that I know, and extremely talented, and always willing to give her time and effort into everything that she does. And with that, I yield to Jamal.
You know, one of my questions I already got asked in regards to how she's going to carry on the role with someone being in it for so long. But I'm not worried about Izzy at all when it comes to community engagement. Without her even being elected to Senate or even doing work within student government, she's always had a passion and care for community. Izzy is, she doesn't believe this, but Izzy's actually a person who I look up to when it comes to doing a lot of work and community engagement stuff. But primarily just because of the true passion that she exhibits and absorbs when it comes to her work. And she puts aside the politics of it all and like the competition and everything that you think of and the self-doubt. Izzy, I don't believe you have self-doubt. I just think you're just very driven in what you're doing. So continue doing that, and encourage everyone to support her in this work.
Senator Liverpool, you have the floor.
I yield.
All right, and we are reaching the end of the 15 minutes that I had set for each motion that was on the agenda. I think that helps keep us on track, and it looks like we were getting to the end of discussion. That being said, if there are items that are unaddressed that you think are vital for the Senate to know about Izzy or the specific motion, I'm willing to keep it going. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we will move into a vote via roll call.
Okay. Senator Ari Narkin,
Yes.
Senator Hawk,
Yes.
Senator Cosme,
Yep.
Senator Liang,
Yes.
Senator Liverpool. Can you repeat that?
Yes.
Senator Nadeem, Senator Shangasa,
Yes.
Senator Ramirez,
Yes.
Senator Rogers, Senator Salimi,
Yes.
Senator Tome,
Yes.
Senator Tulloch,
Yes.
Senator Nadeem. Okay, it's 11 yeses.
Congratulations, the motion passes. All right, so at this time, I will accept any further motions to be made. However, if senators would like to move into a caucus of some kind, I'm willing to stop the recording and move into breakout rooms. Senator Tome.
I would appreciate moving into a caucus, but I would still like us to continue recording and to continue our meeting being open to the public just for transparency. Do I need to motion for that?
In that case, I am going to recommend that we not move into a caucus and that we return to open forum, but during motions. So I will allow during this period of new business, I'm going to, suggest, as Micah has put in the chat, suggest that you motion to discuss a particular topic, but it will be similar to open forum and a moderated caucus, and that you'll be able to discuss that particular motion. And if you make the motion broad enough, you'll be able to discuss, I think, much of what we discussed in open forum, but specifically with regard to, I assume, the Academic Affairs Chair. So Senator Tome, you still have the floor. You are able to make a motion that you would like. If you specifically would like to stay here while it's recording, I recommend that you make a motion to discuss whatever it is you'd like to discuss.
Motion to discuss. It's so weird because we voted this down already. So motion to discuss Amanda Liang's appointment as the Academic Affairs Committee Chair. I'm not sure how to phrase it.
I'm going to interpret that as a motion to discuss the motion to approve Amanda Liang as the chair of the Academic Affairs Committee. Is there a second on that motion? Senator Arnarkin.
Seconded.
Is there any discussion on the motion to discuss? Senator Raza.
I genuinely have a general question. Did we vote on this before or did we not?
There was a motion that was made to approve Amanda Liang as the chair. That motion failed. We are currently in discussion on whether or not to, we are currently in discussion on that motion. So that motion, it has been done and made. At the end of this, there will not be a vote. You would have to separately motion for a vote if you wanted there to be some kind of vote. Currently, this is just a discussion. So because the motion was seconded, I'm assuming that this is similar to a style of open forum where individuals can get on the speakers list or the gallery list, and you will discuss that motion generally, but you're not specifically voting on anything.
Ergo, just to clarify, we're this motion has not been failed before by Senate, right?
The motion to discuss has not been failed. The
Yep.
motion that is being discussed failed.
Okay.
Does
Thank
that
you.
make sense? I know that's a little bit confusing.
It does. Thank you. I yield.
Okay, so is there any discussion at this point? Now we're in a discussion generally about the motion to approve Amanda. Senator Rasa, did you still have your hand up?
I did. But I would be grateful if I could be put down on the speaker list 2 people after whoever speaks. I yield.
Is there any discussion? Any other senators who wish to discuss? Senator Tom.
Sorry, just to clarify, we're voting on the motion to discuss right now. So we're actually just discussing the motion right now, right? Not actually discussing the appointment.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Okay.
ask for clarification on that from Typhoon, the parliamentarian. We are currently in discussion on the motion to discuss. So this motion has to pass for us to be discussing specific details. Yes?
Yes, technically that's correct.
Okay.
Okay,
So
I
then in
yield
that case,
then.
if there's no further discussion specifically on, in other words, if you are voting yes, you are voting that you would like to discuss. If you are voting no, you are voting that you would not like to discuss. And abstaining is you have a conflict of interest or other issue why you cannot vote yes or no. Seeing no further discussion, we will move into a vote by unanimous consent on the motion to discuss. Is there any dissent on discussion?
Wait, I have a question though.
Yes.
I was still on the speakers list. I'm still unsure. So just based off the precedent that you set last time that we were in session, when the rest of the Senate tried to overrule a specific, what was it? When Senate tried to overrule something that you weren't, I think at your discretion was not passed. So my question is, something that had failed and by virtue of its interpretation was not allowed on the floor last meeting, just purely on the basis of consistency, how and why is it so that we're allowing something, and this is just to understand how this proceeding is working, how can we allow a motion that was failed previously to be entertained this time around? Just to understand how the consistency aspect works, like there's no other angle, so if anybody has doubts, please don't.
I am happy to explain that in a bit more detail. So essentially, the motion that is being made right now is a different motion from the motion that was made on Monday. The motion that was made on Monday was a motion to approve. This is a motion to be able to have discussion. So if this motion passes, you will be discussing generally the motion to approve Amanda. You will not be motioning to approve Amanda.
Okay, now
does that make sense? So you're just having general discussion. If you were to pass this motion, you would just be in a period of discussion. There would not be a vote.
So just to clarify, this motion was a motion to discuss the motion to discuss. Okay, thank you, Typhoon.
Yeah.
That's
Okay, so seeing no further discussion, we'll move into a vote, as I said, by unanimous consent. Is there any dissent on having discussion? Seeing and hearing none, the motion passes. We are now in discussion about the motion to approve Amanda Liang as Academic Affairs Chair. Again, a reminder that if discussion stops, we will not have a vote. The meeting will just move into other motions. It will be done.
Sorry, I had my hand raised. I think you didn't see. I dissent.
You dissent on the motion to discuss?
Yes.
Okay, so the motion fails. Is there a motion? Senator Tome.
Sorry, could we not just vote by, so if I re-motion for the same thing, could we just not vote by roll call?
I will allow that because it was a case of unanimous consent and the motion failed. So for the same reason that if there's a motion to adjourn, if same motion to adjourn can be made because it was being made by unanimous consent, I will allow that in this case.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to motion to discuss the motion to approve Amanda Liang as Academic Affairs Committee Chair.
All right, is there a second on that motion? Senator Shangase.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion on the motion to discuss? Again, this is the same situation where if you are voting yes, you are saying you would like to have discussion. Voting no is you would not like to have discussion. I'm not going to scroll through all the names. If you have something you'd like to say, just please say something so I know that you have.
Yeah, no, should I just go on?
Who is this? Senator Rasa?
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm a little confused, and this is both to the Senate and I suppose the Speaker. If we're not voting to discuss, then are we just deciding not to discuss the candidate at all? And by virtue of that, are we not acknowledging that this person has been nominated again by the executive leadership? Just to clarify, and if somebody could answer that question for me from the Senate specifically, a senator.
This is one reason why I recommended that we move into a very brief caucus, is so that we could explain the situation and be able to, have a discussion that wouldn't be quite as formal with moving through the motions. That being said, this is a motion to discuss, so we cannot discuss the content of what would be discussed during this discussion. So right now, the only thing we're discussing is whether or not to discuss, if that makes sense. So when we get to, if this motion passes, which I do encourage you to pass so that we can freely discuss and not be in a parliamentary proceeding all night, we will be able to answer that question more specifically.
Okay.
Do you yield, or do you still have more?
I don't know. I don't yield it because I'm still very confused as to whether we have any sense of, do we want to get out of this meeting, or is this going to go on to like 1 a.m. again? Because at this rate, guys, please, just please, I yield. I don't know what to say.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, we're going to vote by roll call. This is a motion to discuss. Motion to discuss the previous motion that I mentioned. So if this is a yes vote, it is saying that you want to have discussion. If you are voting no, it means you do not want to have discussion. And abstention is conflict of interest.
All right, Senator Aryan Arkin.
Yes.
Senator Hawk. Senator Hawk. Senator Cosme.
Sorry, no.
Senator Liang.
Abstain.
Senator Liverpool.
Yes.
Senator Nadim. Senator Shangase.
Yes.
Senator Ramirez.
Yes.
Senator Rogers.
Yes.
Senator Salimi.
Yes.
Senator Tome.
Yes, sorry.
Senator Tulloch.
Yes.
Senator Hawk.
Yes.
Okay, it's 9 yeses, 4 abstentions, and 1 no.
So the motion passes, and we are going to we are now in discussion about the motion to approve Amanda Liang as Academic Affairs Committee Chair. So to begin, I will turn to President Gorka to describe the state of the situation with the Academic Affairs Committee Chair position and anything else that you would like to describe briefly.
Yeah, of course. I'm actually going to yield to Mark on this one. So.
Okay. That was what I wanted to talk about in the gallery, so you can remove me there. I wanted to clarify some points because this has been very, very confusing. And I have been stuck in a loop as well for like the past 2 days on it as well. I just wanted to say, first thing first is that the motion was removed to begin with from the new business side because we didn't want this just to be a motion to show up anywhere. We wanted senators to kind of think about the issue, which is why we're having this discussion right now, and see where they wanted to go from there. The reason why it's kind of on the table again is just because there was a lot of unclarity with the process, and this is from our side, Justine and I's side, which is why we're trying to share more about the interview process. The only thing I'm not comfortable with sharing is basically the entire list of people who applied, because that's the only thing. But other than that, this is the purpose of this. We want to share as much information as we can with you about the topic. And we've been trying to figure out ways to deal with this in case what we want to approve isn't actually approved. We're totally open for that, and we want to have a discussion about that. When it comes to the appointment of Senator Liang to this position in particular, there were a lot of senators who knew what they wanted to say and a lot of senators who didn't know what they wanted to say. Whether it was because of mistakes from the executive side or from the senator's side or transparency, this conversation is happening again because of that lack of information, okay? So if anyone has any information that they want to know from exec, ask us, I feel, so that we can clarify as much as we can. That's the first thing I want to say. And sorry, the chat went up, Jamal, I saw, okay. And another thing that I wanted to say is that today we had conversations with someone else from the AAC committee to see what the best case scenario is. But the reason why Senate wasn't informed of all of this directly in new businesses is because we literally spent the last 2 days brainstorming everything and seeing what we can do, because this is literally something new. This is something that we haven't encountered for, and there's no set way to deal with. So this is what we're trying to kind of solve. So again, any lack of information, let us know. To kind of add, and the last thing I want to say, I can add more later, is that the second person who kind of we talked to about this AAC committee is present in this meeting. They're ready to talk. We're just waiting to see how the conversation is going to go first, to see where we're going to go from there. Okay? If there's anything about that that's unclear, please let us know so I can kind of clarify it a bit more. I guess I yield.
Senator President Gorka, you have the floor.
I yield.
It looks like there was something in the chat that I just wanted to briefly address, since I did sit on the interviews as well, which was that Amanda was the only chair appointed without the former chair being in the loop. I will say that personally, I've been a part of discussions, as an outgoing chair, but also I've been a part of discussions in other ways in SA government about the typical process that the hang on, let me pause the timer. I've been a part of discussions that the exec and legislative branches have had about the approval process. And typically it is rather unethical to have the outgoing chair be a part of the actual interview process for the new candidates. Because they usually, when they're outgoing, they're a senior or other, will not be otherwise involved in student government. So unless you're a part of the leadership team to protect the confidentiality and privacy of the people who applied, typically you reach out to the outgoing chair just simply to try to understand the role better, or what would make a good person for the role. But it is not the final decision of the outgoing chair as to who the new chair is. So I would just clarify that so that you understand that it, yeah, I'm gonna stop there because I am the speaker, so I'm not going to recuse myself in this discussion. I'm just not going to speak about it anymore. Senator Tom.
Yes, so I do know that some people did have some concerns specifically about the academic affairs chair being appointed on Monday. I still believe that it should be possible for us today to reconsider the motion to appoint Amanda Liang as the academic affairs chair, but I would really like to hear from her a little bit more about how she feels about this and why she is still qualified. Should I yield to Amanda?
You can.
Okay, I yield to Amanda. Senator Liang, sorry.
Thank you, Senator Chom. So I think Monday's meeting was a bit of a cluster. I think that it was rather confusing in terms of being blindsided, I guess, like as a candidate by, I guess, like a lot of like wild things that occurred. I was not aware that Ian was not consulted. In fact, I like went and like rectified that by having a meeting with him this afternoon, which was largely very productive. But obviously he can speak for himself since I believe he's currently in this meeting as well. Yeah, so I think there were a lot of questions about my qualifications. First that were not asked by, I think that first, largely the discussion wasn't about my qualifications. I think most of the discussion that happened on Monday was directed at the executive and the way in which they made that decision. I think that that's like quite interesting, but also really important to note. I think that as an individual, I am still qualified for this position for various reasons. And I would like the opportunity, I guess, like, you know, to answer those questions and concerns. I spent the past couple of days reaching out to people who either chose to abstain, chose to vote no, alternatively people who have sat on the Academic Affairs Committee before, regardless of the year, as well as former chairs. I had a brief and productive discussion with Akshay earlier today, who is also in this Zoom call. He may also speak for himself. I'm meeting with Leif tomorrow to understand exactly like, I guess like more things about not just the chair position, but academic affairs as a whole, since regardless of whether or not you appoint me as chair or even reconsider appointing me as chair, I will be working presumably in academic affairs if I am given my first preference. So these are all like things that I should be knowing anyway while I'm going in. I think I want to address a couple of, I guess, like arguments against an appointment. The first thing is that like, you know, I'm somehow unqualified because I like, you know, haven't been in student government before. I can guarantee you that I have literally read the entirety of all of the governing documents of this body. I know largely how the legalistic aspect of this all functions. And then in addition to that, I've had a lot of conversations with people who have sat on committees, in particular academic affairs, since that is the committee of interest to me, and I would welcome questions on that. In terms of my leadership qualifications, I see that I'm running out of time, but I think that like that's also something that I would welcome free interrogation about. I understand that, you know, experience is incredibly important, and yeah, and I said this yesterday, and I'll say it again for you today. The most important part of my experience still remains the fact that I've been in the shoes of students who need our advocacy the most. The reason you should reconsider might be on the merits of that, but mostly because of the discussion on Monday having been effectively not about my qualifications that much at all. I think that's what I have so far. And I would like to hear what everyone else has to say. I yield back to Senator Chom, please.
I yield the remainder of my time to Tasin Himi.
Hi. So I have I have a question. So the speaker just said that like it was unethical to like consult chairs for reappointments of new members, whereas every other chair for previous committees were consulted except for Ian. So I don't understand how that's unethical as much as hypocritical on that front. And I think one of Sabit's question was misheard, which was that like if Amanda wasn't approved and like wasn't approved in the like on Monday's meeting, like why are we specifically discussing Amanda per se, and why are we not talking more about the process to like see how can we go forward? So I have questions rather than like points.
Senator Chom, do you yield? So I'm not specifically going to address the points that I made because I feel that I would have to recuse myself to discuss, and I probably shouldn't even have brought forward the points that I did. I would just specifically say that I was not intending for it to be that the chairs should not be consulted at all throughout the process, but more so that they should not be a part of like the interviews or the specific personal details of who applied. That was more what I was referring to. Senator Rasa, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Himi, for that clarification. I think definitely my point was misinterpreted. I'm going to throw my couple of just old 2 cents and then I'm going to yield to Ian. I think at the end of the day, this entire situation that's evolved has largely been a causation of our inability to see that a large problem that did come up with Amanda's appointment, as in people deciding not to vote for her appointment last time, had a large influence of the process being very doubted by a lot of senators. And I don't say this lightly, so please don't take me. I think I say this because even though I voted yes myself, and I genuinely do think that Amanda has absolutely the capacity to be a great chair on the Academic Affairs Committee, I do think that the number of people who brought all of the problems up had an issue with the process, then that process does need to be reviewed openly and publicly so that this entire debate can be put to rest, and also so that it sets a precedent in the long run for us to follow for the next entire year, so that we don't have issues in terms of what we're doing or what we're not doing, or when Senate gets into this clusterfuck of a fight deciding as to whether somebody should or should not be appointed or whatever one's saying.
I'm going to request that you keep decorum during the meeting. Please refrain from swearing.
Apologies for that. Though I don't think it makes any sense. Anyhow, at this point, I'd like to yield to Ian, and then we'll see from there.
Thank you. So a couple of things. So I have been a member of the Academic Affairs Committee for 2 years now, first as a legislative advisor for a semester, executive director for a semester, and then chair for a year. So I definitely think that, you know, when I chose to not reapply for chair, I, again, emphasized very much to the incoming executive team that I was more than willing and eager to help out with, you know, identifying my successor. That was not with the intention to be part of any interviews. That was not with the intention to be part of the selection of a specific candidate. That was just for general consultation about the position itself, what the position entails, and the qualities that a candidate, you know, you should be looking for when identifying a candidate. Again, as others have stated, I was the only chair that wasn't consulted about this. I also was not consulted over the past 2 days, since Monday, about this at all. And that's really disappointing to me, that even after these concerns were brought up on Monday, the executive team, and Justina and Mark, did not reach out to me to ask anything about the position. So I do want to clarify a little bit of what Speaker Pavlison said. So I met, you know, I'm going to run out of time. So I guess at this point I'll yield, but if anybody else wants to yield their time to me.
Senator Rasa, do you yield?
Yeah, I yield.
Senator Ramirez, I encourage you to yield to Ian Krager.
Yeah, I yield my time to Ian Krager.
Yeah, I'll just keep this brief. I appreciate that Amanda reached out to me today. I really do. We had a very good conversation, and I want to emphasize that no matter who is appointed to this position, I will do my best to transition that person into the role, because I think continuity is really important. So no matter who is appointed, I will do my best to do that. However, I do have concerns about Amanda specifically as a candidate, since that is the discussion that we're currently on. I met today with the former chairs of the Academic Affairs Committee. I had a conversation with Leif Johansson, Anne-Marie Kearns, Akshay Sharth Chandra, and we agreed that it is so important for this particular position to have former SA experience. And I will emphasize that a lot. I think Amanda is going to be a fantastic senator, and I hope she is a member of the Academic Affairs Committee. But I think that there is, you know, a certain degree of experience that is required for this position that Amanda does not have. And again, I would emphasize that the process by which Amanda has been selected for this position is concerning, to say the least. I would also encourage someone, I yield at this point, and I also encourage if former chair, if Charth Chandra would like to say anything, I encourage someone to yield to him. I yield.
Senator Ramirez, you have the floor.
Yeah, I yield to former Senator Akshay.
All right. Hi, everyone. So yeah, I also had a really good conversation with Amanda today. We talked a little bit about the role and some of the challenges associated with it. And, you know, Amanda shared a lot of her qualifications, and I think she has a really good vision for what she might do on the committee. But I'm really concerned about someone being brand new to a committee and taking on the chair role. It's a lot of interacting with administrators and sort of figuring out what projects you want to do. And I'm sure everyone here will learn very soon that there's an important relationship you have to strike with administrators when you're trying to accomplish projects in SA. But you know, I feel like, again, the bigger issue here is the process of nomination. I mean, it sounds like still there are some huge holes. Why weren't previous chairs consulted? Why is this the only situation in which this has happened? So, you know, vote for Amanda, I guess, based on what you think of her as a candidate. I have concerns, like Ian mentioned, but the bigger issue I think here that exec definitely should address is why they went about it this way. So I yield.
All right, so our time for discussion has elapsed. I'm willing to extend it if there are points that need to be made that have not already been made. Otherwise, there is not a vote that comes at the end of this. We just move into motions, and more than likely a motion would adjourn. So I would turn to Senator Arnarkin for either a motion, such as a motion to adjourn, or a motion to extend time by a certain amount.
Motion to extend time by 15 minutes.
Is there a second on the motion to extend discussion time by 15 minutes? Senator Shangase.
Yes, I second the motion.
Is there any discussion on the motion to extend speaking time by 15 minutes? President Gorka.
Sorry, I'm not motioning to talk about the extension of the time. I was
Okay.
trying to speakers list.
Senator Arnarkin, do any senators have discussion specifically on the motion to extend time? If not, we'll move into.
Yeah, I would move into vote.
Okay. Senator Rasa, did you have something to add? No? Okay, we're going to move into a vote by roll call.
All right, 1 second, please. I apologize.
All right, we can do unanimous consent for this. We're gonna
I'm
vote.
ready for roll
Okay.
call. Okay. Senator Arnarkin?
Yes.
Senator Hawk?
Yes.
Senator Cosme?
Yep.
Senator Liang?
Yes. Or sorry, abstain.
Senator Liverpool?
Yes.
Senator Nadeem? Senator Shangasa?
Yes.
Senator Ramirez?
Yes.
Senator Rogers?
Yes.
Senator Salimi?
Yes.
Senator Tome?
Yes.
Senator Tulloch?
Yes.
11 yeses.
All right, the motion passes. I will extend it by 15 minutes. Senator Ramirez, you have the floor.
I yield.
Senator Tome, you have the floor.
Yes, I do want to recognize that it's extremely important we keep on talking about the process, but I do believe that is another conversation that I would be very happy to discuss in another motion to discuss. I do want I think it's really important as well that we do appoint a chair for the Academic Affairs Committee today, because this is our last official Senate meeting. I don't think we're aiming to have any more because today is the last day of classes. And especially, I do believe that the Academic Affairs Chair will be doing a lot of work over the summer, looking at how fall 2020 might look like, whether it will be in person, whether it will be online, and might also be doing a lot of advocacy. That's why I will be motioning later after I see there's still a lot of conversation that's going to happen, but I would really appreciate later after we finish that, a motion to reconsider the approval of Amanda Liang as Academic Affairs Chair. I still believe she is an extremely qualified candidate. I do see that experience is really important, but I do believe also her being on Senate at the same time while being a chair does hold her very accountable. She will have to come to Senate every single week, and I believe that she'll still be able to liaise with the administration and with the staff about any of the concerns she might bring forward. Additionally, I believe that she'll bring something very unique to being the chair that I'm not sure whether any of the other chairs had before, having that experience she has gone through, and also creating her own major, something that I'm really excited about. I've worked with former SA President Beatrice Gill on the humanities project. I really believe that she could really do well with that. And I don't think experience should be a barrier here. I'm a little bit concerned that our people are citing experience so much. It sounds to me rather as an excuse for not approving the candidate than it actually being the main concern. We've seen several candidates with an essay that haven't had any experience. Some of them haven't excelled. Some of them have excelled and gone on to do much greater things. So I don't think experience is actually the main concern here. And I promise to hold her accountable to doing the best, no matter what happens. I yield.
Senator Rasa?
Yeah, sorry. I have to make in good conscience, I can't completely ignore the point about the process because it's directly linked to the appointment. I will say that if we are using a metric of experience as one that qualifies and disqualifies individuals, then I feel like myself and Sakile shouldn't have been appointed either. So I will bring that up very openly. But at the same time, I also have to very explicitly say that I do want a very definitive sort of game plan from Amanda in terms of how she's going to deal with what I won't call the lack of connections within the administration or with the administration, but say just not the same degree of connectivity within the administration that an experienced chair might have. And I'd really appreciate if you could give me a specific idea of what she is going to do to overcome that challenge. Hello, Amanda. I yield to Amanda, sorry.
Thank you very much. So I just want to address that misnomer very clearly. I do not have a lack of experience liaising with administrators. I've done so on my own behalf. I think there are people in the gallery that can actually speak to the conversations that we've had with administrators regarding personal projects. We've gotten the administration to fund, our own, an entire a competition that we ran, that we enacted on. All of these things speak to an experience liaising with administrators. I can give you a list of all of the administrators I have ever emailed, I have ever talked to, but I don't believe that is necessary. I think other people can speak on my behalf in the gallery, should they choose to. I think that the idea that I am inexperienced with the work of advocacy on behalf of people to administration is a misnomer. I will admit that I do not have experience with student government.
Yeah, I'll just cut you off a little bit, teeny tiny bit there. I think I'm not doubting your experience. I know you personally, and I understand that you have a shit ton of experience with all sorts of members. But what I'm trying to ask is,
I'm gonna ask, please try to refrain from swearing. It's just it's something with, given the position as a senator, we just request during the meetings for decorum.
Understood. But what I'm specifically referring to is the experience aspect of it, in terms of having the same network that an experienced chair who has worked specifically with the individuals within the administration that deals with academic affairs.
Oh, okay. I understood your question then. I guess to address that, I am aware that I am aware that former chair Krager has questions about my qualifications generally, but in our discussion we talked about a couple of things, including a transition.
I'm gonna request, unfortunately, that we move on.
Sure. I yield back.
Senator Rosso, do you yield?
I yield.
Senator Aronarkin?
Yeah, Amanda, if you could finish like 30 seconds.
Sure. So basically, former Senator Krager said that he would support the transition regardless of who it was. I think that assistance, that, I guess like support would be totally invaluable. It would be one of the more important things in terms of moving into, I guess, like the role itself and all of the specificities and like wildness of the specific role. I think that would be something that is incredibly important. I think the fact that I reached out, I guess like largely on my own accord, speaks well to that, like as an ongoing relationship potentially. In addition to that, we have an entire summer of meetings that the Senate, we, I guess, like informally, largely like sort of agreed to have. If it is the case that we have meetings every week throughout the summer, or even every other week, that would also be an opportunity to plan and refine ideas, as well as spend the weeks of the summer reaching out to administrators and creating those relationships that don't exist already, as well as reintroducing relationships that have already existed. I yield back to Senator Aronarkin.
Cool. I want to yield to one more person for the remainder of my time, if Larissa is still here. 3?
Yes. Did you yield to me?
No, to Larissa.
Oh, sorry.
Hi. Sorry. Is this working?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, I just wanted to weigh in a little bit of my personal experience when it comes to transitioning in chairs. I was the chair of International Student Affairs Committee. Many of you might say that that's small fish compared to the academics committee, but if we think back, we can see that this was a committee that dealt with the tunnel painting situation, with the flag situation, with pretty much every single conflict that we had in student government last year. And so this was not an easy committee to deal with in last year. So when I was chair for a very brief time. And I actually became chair. I only had 6 months experience in student government as a whole. And the person that became chair after me had literally zero experience in student government. And in the process of selecting the chairs, I had no idea who was applying. And actually, I would not want to know who was applying, because I did not want to be partial in the situation. The only person that I knew was applying was someone that actually came up to me and told me that she was applying for the position. And in this process and the new chair was actually extremely successful in dealing with many of those situations. And I'm very proud of his job. And the most important thing when it comes to transitioning someone new was the transitioning process itself. Sure, experience is important, but if people are communicative, if people actually
I'm going to request, unfortunately, that we yield.
Well, I got everything that I wanted to. So, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Senator Aronarkin, do you yield?
Thank you. I yield to the next one.
So your time is up. So do you yield to the floor?
Yes.
To me. President Gorka?
Larissa, if you want to continue, I can yield to you.
Oh, great. Okay. So I just pretty much wanted to say that the transitioning process was the most important thing, and being open and being communicative. And I'm very happy that Ian is willing to work with Amanda in the transitioning process. And at this point, I feel like it's time for you to understand what actually is going to be best for student government as of now. And I just wanted to keep in mind that you might have to weigh in the fact that there might be a huge cost to not appointing Amanda as of now. And I understand that we want to be idealistic and we want to do things right. And I'm pretty sure that you need to have a conversation about the selection process in the future. But as of now, we need to understand that in the fall, some serious things need to be discussed, and we need someone as the academics chair right now. And that's pretty much all I have to say.
President Gorka, you have the floor.
Yeah, and I just kind of wanted to echo that remaining point. Like, I'm definitely, cognizant of like the errors being made, and I'm definitely down to review this. But for the sake of making sure that we're, staying on top of schedule, I definitely want to separate, executive from Amanda as a candidate, because we picked in good faith, and I don't want any of our shortcomings to fall badly on her. So this is a good discussion going on so far. I don't know if Mark wanted, he was on the gallery list. If not, I'll yield to Lily with the remainder of my time.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to say a couple of things. One, I do think this this chair position is especially important this year. We have no clue if we're going to be back in the fall. And that's completely honest. I was on a call today for our commencement committee, and they brought up the option of us literally having spring and summer terms. So anything is out there. And I think it's important to note that I think this year especially is important for the academics chair more than anything to be, one, probably overqualified, but really prepared for the job, because it's going to be more challenging. And with that, you don't need to appoint someone by now. And you don't have to have someone officially confirmed, and you can work with over the summer without approval. And so what's important, I think, is picking the person who's right for the job. I'm not saying that Amanda's not that person. I just think rushing an appointment is not the best idea. And with that, you can still have Amanda, if you think she's the best, do work over the summer and things like that. You can have everyone involved in the academic committee do things like that over the summer, but it's not important to rush something if you're not all confident on it. And I would really make sure you don't do it just because you think it's something that needs to be done now. We already spent way too long the other meeting discussing it, and unfortunately that was partly due to other reasons. But everyone makes mistakes, and so I think it's just important to move on from that and focus on the candidate. I'm going to finish my sentence. Alexander. Okay.
Yep, that's time.
Okay,
All
I do
right,
have
President
to go now
Gorka,
because...
do you yield?
I yield.
Senator Shangase?
Yeah, I also just want to talk about this issue of experience that has been brought up time and time again. I really want to point out that SA members don't have a monopoly of on working with on working with the administration and building relationships. That there's so many students, myself included, who don't have experience with the Senate, but have time and time again have been liaison with different administrative bodies and managed to build relationships. Even if that wasn't a thing, even if let's say someone wasn't in that position that they've built those relationships, I think it's important to reiterate Amanda's point that relationships indeed can be built, and that it's not just a matter of what you can bring to the table, but it's also a matter of like how far you can push your advocacy to actually make a difference. I think that Amanda has expressed time and time again her experience and everything that she has done to this point, and I think that any opposition to that is largely speculative. Any opposition that says that Amanda can't do the job is largely speculative and just mainly rude. I'm just gonna say it, but I think that we should just stick with the facts here, and I think that Amanda is a very experienced candidate. I also want to point out that, like Ian pointed out, that he can be consulted as a former chair. I think that his wealth of experience that he has had from this position will be very, very useful. And Amanda has also expressed intention to collaborate and intention to just be helped with to work with Ian. I also like to point out that there's a position of deputy which Amanda can utilize to appoint someone who's perhaps more experienced than her. If we're going with this experience argument so much. And I also like to point out that people like myself are also new to Senate, are also new chairs, and that's going to take a lot of working. And I don't think that we should be overwritten as candidates. And I understand that these are different positions to compare, but I also think that the position, like ISAC chair is a very, very important position in terms of what it covers and everything.
So that is the time for the 15-minute timer. So at this point, I see that there was a request to potentially discuss a motion to extend time. Given the nature of today's meeting as a special session and the amount of time that we've spent on this one motion, I would encourage you to extend it by no more than 10 minutes and to move through the members of the gallery, giving each one a minute. And to choose something like that where you're not repeating the discussion that's already been said. That being said, I will accept a motion. Senator Tulloch.
Definitely see your concern. I'm gonna up that, or I'm gonna suggest we up that from 10 to a motion to extend the speaking time by 15 minutes.
Is there a second on that motion? Senator Salimi.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion on the motion to extend time? I will note that a senator has to leave within 5 minutes. I believe we will still have quorum at that point, considering I believe we have 12 now, but I'll have to double check. So that's just something to bear in mind. We have 11 currently, so in 5 minutes we will be at quorum, meaning as soon as one senator has to go, that's roughly when we would have to end the meeting. So that being said, is there any discussion? Senator Arnarkin.
Question, can we do voting by roll call so we don't fail the motion?
Yes, we can vote via roll call. So we are currently voting on whether to extend the discussion time by 15 minutes. We're going to vote by a roll call.
All right, Senator Arnarkin,
Yes.
Senator Hawk,
Yes.
Senator Cosme,
Yep.
Senator Liang,
Abstain.
Senator Liverpool,
Yeah.
Senator Shamgasa,
Yes.
Senator Ramirez,
Yes.
Senator Rogers,
Yes.
Senator Salimi,
Yes.
Senator Tome,
Yes.
Senator Tulloch.
Yes.
10 yeses.
Motion passes. So we will extend it by 15 minutes. Senator Shamgasa, you have the floor. And you have about 30 seconds before I would consider turning over the floor.
I yield to Alec.
Yes, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes. Yes.
It appears that Senator Nadeem was not called. Matt, did you say Senator Nadeem?
Oh, I did not think he was here because he hasn't voted the last 3 times that I called his name. Is he here now?
Senator Nadeem, are you present?
I think my mic was muted the whole time. I was voting.
Oh, I apologize. Okay, do you vote Senator Nadeem?
Yes.
Okay, 11 yeses.
Motion passes still. All right, you can continue discussion.
All right.
Alex.
So, yeah, so I guess I'm not part of SA, but I've been listening to all of this the entire time. And it seems like the amount of discussion that you guys are giving this makes it seem like this chair position is extremely important. And so given that, apparently the supposed importance of this, I think it might be a good decision for you guys to kind of decide on whether or not Amanda should be the chair or not, or to find someone else relatively quickly. And also, just as like a close friend of Amanda, I know that if she is appointed to this position, she'll definitely put in a ton of time over the summer to try to make sure everything is in place, whether or not we'll be on campus or not. But I guess I would also like to add to some of the points that Sakila and Larissa were saying about, I guess, the supposed lack of qualifications on Amanda's part. And I would like to kind of dispel kind of more of that. So at least from like my experience, Amanda has been working with the administration quite significantly. To give some very particular specifics, she actually has a very close relationship with Dean Heinzelman, and she's been honestly speaking with her like on a conversational basis over time and over the many years ever since freshman year, and they know each other by name. We've also together spoken to Dean Runner on several occasions, just both in small receptions and also to address a lot of the problems that students have been having on the campus even before she was a senator. And she's also had to work with the administration in order to kind of get her own major kind of declared, right? Because she's working on this, her own major. So she has to work with the administration in that way. And we also worked with Dean Ainsley in the Simon School of Business and also some of the administration within the Haitian School in order to get some funding for some of the competitions that she was alluding to. And I also believe that she's spoken with President Mangelsdorf and former President Seligman at former occasions, just based on some of the conversations we've had in the past. So she most definitely knows her way around the administration and knows, I guess, the proper decorum per se, if that's kind of the concern here. But as for her leadership experience, I'd also like to point out that she was the leader on Forte, debate, and also rugby. And those are definitely something that shouldn't be taken away, as they're all different parts of the essay community in many different ways. And actually debate is outside of the essay community, so that's an even bigger point. And then also just kind of reiterating some of she was also a leader when we had the whole outbreak with the wall paintings and leading a lot of conversations of peace. And again, the sort of point that she has been through pretty much every single academic.
And that is time. Senator Shangassi, do you yield?
I do.
Senator Salimi?
Hi. So I think what I'm gonna say is gonna be very repetitive to like what a lot of the senators have already said. So I'm just trying to keep what I'm gonna say short. And I think Amanda is very qualified for the position. Whatever concerns we've seen come up from different people, they've been more about the process that the executive used to appoint these people to the positions rather than about the candidates' qualifications themselves. And it's nothing against Amanda. I think she's a really great candidate, but because as Lily said, this position requires a lot of work, and especially this year because when everything's so uncertain with academics and the fall semester, we do need someone who kind of has more experience with essay. And even though Amanda does not have like previous experience with essay, even though she's like obviously like sat with administrators and everything. And I think the main issue that we keep coming back to is the fact that Ian was never consulted in the first place. I know it's been addressed a lot, but still, like, to me, it still kind of bothers me that Ian, who was the previous academic affairs committee chair, was never consulted in the first place when he should have been. And with that, I yield to Micah.
Hi. So I'm a little bit upset because I think that people need to stop repeating themselves, and they're doing that a lot, and the process should be discussed separately. Ian being consulted, in my opinion, is unnecessary, and that's something that's completely up to Justina and Mark as to whether or not they want to do. That's been done differently throughout the years based on the positions, based on that leadership. That's up to them. What I would say, though, is that I do think that essay experience matters. And the reason why I say that is that essay experience means not just understanding what you can accomplish by going to administrators and having a relationship with administrators that Amanda clearly already does have. It also means understanding what you can accomplish in essay that you can't accomplish outside of essay. So Amanda apparently has already accomplished some things outside of essay by liaising with administrators. But the reason why having essay experience is important is understanding what you can accomplish in this role as opposed to what she can already accomplish. And that's what should be considered in this discussion. Not whether Ian was consulted or whether Amanda has experience in other clubs. It's what she would do in this role. I yield my time.
Senator Salimi, you still have the floor.
I yield to Remshaw.
Sorry, I was muted. Okay, so a bunch of things that I wrote down are already said it, so I'm just not going to say it. Alec already mentioned the academic network that a lot of people were concerned about. One thing I would like to say is people were talking about we need to find the candidate with the best of interest for student government, and we know that Amanda was coming to a lot of Senate meetings, being an activist for students when the entire Tibet situation happened. So I think she, yeah, my time's done. Okay, never mind.
Senator Salimi, do you yield?
I yield.
Senator Rogers?
Thank you. One thing I want to mention, one thing that's been said, Amanda is a qualified person and that she can do the job. But one thing I'll iterate, the motion failed to appoint her, not saying that she is not, whether that be because of administration or because people have questions about her actual, whether people have questions about what she qualified or not, but whatever that may be, the motion failed in general. we have seen in before that regardless of the position, people can have impacts on the committee. But I know she has a lot of experience in the academic committee, and she can really impact the committee regardless of the role. So discussing whether or not to appoint her, I feel like is repetitive because it failed. We should move on to the next person. Not saying that this is not personally attacking her, but we already discussed this. It wasn't something that happened, and we need to focus on the future chair, and she can help out in capacity. We have seen with, let's say, one LA position in Lumi, she was part of campus services, and she had a huge impact campus services, regardless of her being chair or not. So it doesn't matter the position; it matters what does the committee as a whole do together. So regardless of the she's chair or not, I feel like it's repetitive. It doesn't need to be said. The motion failed. I'm sorry, but we should move on to the next person and focus on confirming the next chair that whoever the exec chooses to appoint. That's I yield.
Senator Tulloch.
Yeah, I'm not really going to go in circles. I'm just going to use my time to yield to people. Please do not take that much time. I yield to Tayfun.
Great. Thank you. I just wanted to quickly address something that Lillian had brought up earlier, that Amanda could be in some kind of acting capacity as chair over the summer to like get experience and then prove, I guess, that she could work with administration. That was something that was considered by leadership. Ultimately, there's not necessarily a basis for Amanda to just like assume an acting role. That was it. I'm not going to necessarily offer any opinion one way or the other on the merits of her nomination or appointment, though. I just wanted to clarify those rules. I yield.
I yield to Ayaman.
Hi, yeah, thank you. I just have just something really quick to say. Regarding the failures of the exec, I think we should, I agree with Micah, we should definitely separate that from the appointment of, or the approval of Amanda as chair. Their failures do not necessarily dictate her qualifications in any single way. She has shown that outside of SA, she's extremely qualified and has already established connections that are really important to the position. On top of that, she's an avid reader of all the Senate minutes, that have from previous meetings. She has sat in on several Senate meetings, which shown that to some degree she does have some kind of experience as to how SA works to some degree, maybe not fully, but this definitely means that there's a lot of room for learning on her part, and especially because she has just a lot of skills and a huge knowledge base already. It's definitely worth
I'm sorry, I want to cut you off so that I can yield to somebody else. I yield to Ian.
I'll keep this brief because everybody wants to just be done with this. I think it's really, really important to emphasize that when I talk about experience, I'm not talking about experience with administrators. Anybody can meet with a dean, anybody can meet with administrators. That's fantastic. I think it's great that Amanda has that experience, and I think a lot of people have that experience. What I'm referencing is that experience with SA, and I think I'm going to agree 100% with what Micah said here. It's super important to understand how this role works within the institution of the Students Association. That's something that, it's something you just need to have to go into this role. It's a really important position, and it's something where you have to understand how the Academic Affairs Committee, like as a committee, works within the entire institution. Beyond that, I agree 100% with Senator Rogers in that I don't even understand really why we're having this discussion when Senate already spoke on Monday. And that's something that I would also emphasize. I yield.
Senator Tulloch, do you yield?
I yield.
Senator Arnarkin?
I yield to Ramshan.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I had a bunch of things written down, so thank you so much for yielding to me. And I'm just going to talk about the things that were not discussed. So first of all, I was part of the academic committee, and one of the things that I realized was there was a lot of project ideas being brought up by some of the students. Andre was one of them. And I feel like bringing up project ideas is something that is another thing that needs to be one of the skills of the new chair. And knowing Amanda and how much she is involved in the student body and how she has an academic network, which a lot of people kept on bringing up, I think she would be a great candidate, and she would be a good person to bring up the new perspective. Second of all, I keep on hearing that she does not have the essay experience. She needs to understand the essay structure. She needs to understand the role of academic committee as a whole. But if I'm not wrong, Amanda was actually coming to a bunch of Senate meetings to talk about and being an activist for student body when a lot of things were happening, and she kept on bringing up issues and speaking for people who didn't. She has the personal connection to the academic, to the administration. And I feel like because of that involvement, I think she knows the essay structure. And if we are talking about the essay structure, I feel like that is something that could be learned, and there is the summer part of it. There's Typhoon for the parliamentarian part of it. There are other people who can guide her towards the structure, and I feel like the structure is not something that should be the reason that she's not being appointed, because that is something that could be learned easily. And then again, and the last point I would like to mention would be what Ian brought up, that the Senate already spoke last meeting, so why are we having that conversation? Well, let's talk about, but let's not forget that the last Senate meeting, we talked about the process being fucked up, the process being messed up rather than Amanda's qualification. I don't think Amanda's qualifications were mentioned to as much time than like other candidates, and I feel like that is the conversation that we should be happening and not ignoring just because that conversation already happened. And yeah, I think she would be a great candidate, and I yield back to Senator Arkin.
Yeah, thank you. I definitely strongly agree, especially with the last point about why we're having this discussion. But in my last 20 seconds, I want to motion to close the speakers list.
There's been a motion to close the speakers list. Is there a second on that motion? Senator Shangasa?
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion on the motion to close the speakers list? We will vote via roll call.
Okay. Senator Arkin?
Yes.
Senator Hawk? Senator Hawk? Senator Cosme?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Senator Cosme? Senator Cosme? Senator Liang?
Abstain.
Senator Liverpool? Senator Liverpool?
Keep going.
Senator Shangasa?
Yes.
Senator Nadeem?
Yes.
Senator Ramirez?
Yes.
Senator Rogers?
Yes.
Senator Salimi?
Yes.
Senator Thome?
Yes.
Senator Tulloch?
Yes.
Senator Cosme?
I'll be on.
Yep.
Senator Liverpool? Okay, 10 yeses.
All right, so the motion passes. So we have now closed the speakers list. If anyone would like to be added, I would also encourage you to only try to get on the speakers list if you have something new that has not yet been discussed. With that being said, Senator Arkin, I believe you still have the floor for another 14 seconds.
I yield.
Senator Salimi?
I yield my time to Hemi.
Hi, and like not to be repetitive, but this answer keeps getting pushed. So like Senator Roger brought up an interesting point. This motion failed on Monday, and this motion is being brought up again. And I'm not sure what are the bylaws or how can this, like how is this even like happening? And I would like some clarification on that I asked for, like when this discussion started, which I believe was like at least half an hour ago. Like not, and I'm just like, and also like I thought the conversation was more about like the clarification process and whatnot, but like, and I'm like, I truly believe that Amanda is more than qualified to be in this position, but I'm just confused about why are we going in loopholes, because I would like some clarification.
I can directly answer the procedural question about this particular motion. So there is a way that should a senator choose to motion for it, you can vote motion to reconsider the motion to appoint or to approve Amanda Liang as Academic Affairs Committee Chair. That specific motion, which I am happy to write out so that Senator can say it, is only feasible during this meeting, given that it is a special session and it's essentially an extension of the previous meeting. It would have to be motioned for by a senator who voted no on the motion. And so that is the only way in which that motion could be voted on, if that makes sense. Right now, this is simply a discussion. When the discussion ends, which the timer just ended, we are now out of the motion unless a motion is made specifically to vote. So you can't vote on the motion that was already made. You can vote on a motion to reconsider the motion. Does that make sense? Okay, so Senator Tome?
Motion to reconsider. Motion to approve Amanda Liang as the Academic Affairs Chair.
Is there a second on that motion? Senator, I do not see a second on the, Senator Shangase.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion on the motion to reconsider? And I would specifically, I'm actually going to turn the floor over temporarily to Typhoon to discuss, if you will, the meaning of the reconsider motion and what voting yes and no is in that context.
Sure. So if you vote yes to reconsider, then that means that the original motion to approve would come back before Senate and be voted on again. If and let's say that the motion to reconsider passes and the motion to approve fails, then it cannot be reconsidered again. That's the end of the line, and the nomination would effectively be dead on the table. If even if the motion to reconsider fails, it also cannot be brought up again. So in order for Amanda to be chair, both this motion to reconsider would have to pass, as well as the motion to approve. If this motion to reconsider passes, you will automatically then be discussing the motion to approve Amanda as chair, and a new motion does not need to be issued. I hope that clarifies things a little bit. Does anyone have questions?
Senator
So,
Shangase?
sorry, it's
we're still going to do this via a speakers list. So if you have questions specifically about what Typhoon just mentioned, I'm happy to do that. And then if there are no questions specifically for what Typhoon just mentioned, we can move into the general discussion. So Senator Shangase, did you have?
Sorry, my hand was not supposed to be up.
Okay, Senator Salimi, it sounded like you had a question.
so if the motion to reconsider passes, we can move on to discussing a new candidate for the position.
No, if the motion to reconsider passes, then you will be discussing the original motion to approve Amanda Liang as chair of Academic Affairs Committee. If the motion to reconsider fails, then you would most likely want to be considering other candidates, but it would be up to the president to appoint someone first.
Okay, yeah. I yield.
Okay, if there are no further questions, we're going to move into discussion specifically now on the motion to reconsider. And it appears as though we will have another senator leaving at 10. So I will say that I would like to keep this to less than 5 minutes of discussion before we. That being said, is there any discussion on the motion to reconsider? Seeing no further discussion, we will move into a vote by roll call.
Okay, Senator Arinarkin?
Yes.
Senator Hawk?
No.
Senator Cosme? Senator Liang?
Come back to me.
Senator Liverpool? Senator Nadeem? Senator Shangasa,
Yes.
Senator Ramirez,
No.
Senator Rogers,
No.
Senator Salini,
No.
Senator Tome.
Yes.
Hi, I'm here.
I'll come back to you. Senator Tulloch,
My vote. Hello?
yeah, I'll come back to you.
Okay, sorry.
Senator Tulloch, I think you're on mute.
Yes.
Okay, Senator Cosme, Senator Liverpool.
No.
Okay.
I'm here as well.
Oh, sorry, Senator Nadeem.
Yeah, no.
Okay, and Senator Liang.
I mean, it doesn't matter at this point, does it?
You please make your motion or make your vote. Yes, no, or abstain.
Did you abstain?
Yes, correct. Abstain.
Okay, so it's 4 yeses, 6 noes, and 4 abstentions.
All right, so the motion fails. Is there a motion? I recommend it be a motion to adjourn. Senator Arnarkin.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there any dissent, or is there a second on the motion? Senator Tulloch.
I second.
Is there any dissent on the motion to adjourn? If so, please say it out loud. Seeing no dissent and hearing no dissent, we are adjourned.
Specifically ask, even if you know I'm not going to have an answer, and you just want to throw it out there as something you're going to want an answer to, go ahead, let me know.